Facebook Live. We are live. I thought I'd show you where we work. I'm going to join Paddy Davitt in a moment. This is the media room at Hillsborough. So there's Paddy, as you can see. It's basically a classroom. I think it is actually the study centre, and you can see there's lots of computers and things and what have you, and very salubrious settings. And behind us there's a picture of the stadium. There we go. Paddy's with me too. Let me come this side, Pad, actually, because that'll make life easier. Here he is. Here we are. I'll see if I can stretch my arm. Go on then, Pad. I don't feel like I need to ask you a question. Just tell us your mood at this precise moment in time.
Funnily enough, my eye's been drawn to behind us. There's some sort of buzzwords on there. Midfield application, none of that. What we got? We got anything about defensive abdication? No, I don't see that on there.
You can't teach that stuff, Pad.
Problem solving? No, none of that. Explain? Well, yeah, maybe start. Summarise, there's a good one as well. How'd you summarise that? I mean, Alex Neil was effectively nonplussed. Just spoken to him there about 20 minutes ago now, and he wouldn't have seen that coming. We wouldn't have seen it coming. Those loyal 2,000 or so fans who trekked up here didn't see that coming. But then the reality is we have seen it. We saw it at Brighton. Yeah. We saw it at Brighton. We saw it, not to the same degree, at Burton and Rotherham. Final confirmation. You and I have both been saying it. They're not good enough. That team aren't good enough. So you get what you deserve ultimately over the course of a season. And it's going to be a fairly miserable end to the season now. And it's the what next. We've kind of had a trial run pre-Christmas with flack flying from towards the manager, towards the players. They've got through that. They rode that storm out. I'd imagine they'll ride this storm out again. But for me, it's about, it's a change of the guard for me. There's too many of those players are past it. They're past the sell-by date. And it's a brutal business. The change needs to happen. And if it's the manager who's going to remain in post, then that change needs to be on the pitch. And he, to be fair to him, he did speak yesterday afternoon about transition periods and there's a young, hungry group of lads there who are knocking on the door, and I think the door might finally be getting opened over the last 11 games, is it?
Yeah, 11 more games starting in Bristol on Tuesday. How exciting is that trip? I mean, I haven't looked at my Twitter feed properly yet. I'm not sure if you have. No, that's a fair piece of advice. But I guess you guys will have lots of theories on why things have gone wrong. We've got our theories on why things have gone wrong and the various issues that Norwich are having to deal with. But it's just so much stuff, isn't it? And as you said, we're probably going to have a manager who will be in charge and who will get the rebuilding job. It's almost, where do you start? I mean, and in terms of blaming things for today, whether the formation, whether the way he dealt with the 4-4-2 from the outset was right, the players' attitude, their hunger. There's just too many things almost to sort of distill it. It feels like
there is, but there's one constant from pretty much the start of the season. Well, after that initial promise dissolved into the carnage we're seeing now, and that is defensively, away from home particularly. 37 goals now conceded in 18 away games. You're essentially saying to that Norwich team, or whatever Norwich team takes the pitch away from home in the Championship, you need to score 2 goals minimum to get a result. Now that's ridiculous. Not even Barcelona and Real Madrid, if you set them that task over the course of a season, are going to win too many away games. The reality is, defensively, and it's not solely about the 4 or 5 lads in front of John Ruddy, it's the whole team, but inevitably they're in the team, those defenders, to keep the ball out the back of the net. And again today, so, as you said there, some of the lack of anticipation, the sense of danger when the balls were coming into the box, and we'll probably we'll drill into the individual goals and individual errors, but as a unit, 37 conceded this season and counting. I mean, there's only Rotherham now to aim for. They've conceded 52 and they are nailed on for League One. So there you go. It's pretty stark. If you concede goals in those quantities away from home, you've got no chance of getting anywhere near promotion.
Yeah, I guess lackadaisical defending in central areas from the centre backs for most of the other goals. John Ruddy's error probably for the first, however well Ross Wallace took it. Yeah. The thing for me is, you see managers come into teams and they get them organised and they improve defensively, even with the same personnel. You see that a lot. So are we saying that it's the players, or is it that they just aren't being coached well enough to defend? Because this is an issue that's been in both levels for 2 seasons, really.
Well, you would have to say it in terms of the way you've broken that down or distilled it. It's both, isn't it? It's clearly both aspects of that equation haven't functioned for, as you rightly say, probably the start of 2016, i.e., when they had a nice Christmas period in the Premier League, and then they went to Stoke, Gary O'Neill, red card, and then it's been unmitigated disaster after disaster away from home, particularly. But ultimately, you come back to Alex Neil and what got him 2 years ago up out of this division, and the first few months in the Premier League was this bullish, chest out, lads, we'll go there and we'll have a go and we'll attack teams, and we've got better players, maybe not in the Premier League but certainly in the Championship, we've got better players and they will prevail. That's naive. It's almost treating opponents with disdain, that basically we don't really care about how good you are, we're better. Now you need that trait, of course you do. You need to be self-confident and back your own ability, but the naivety from the coaches and the naivety from them players to week after week in this division to think they can just go and not defend properly. It's the fundamentals. You're not asking, surely, players supposedly of the quality of Tim Closer, the fullbacks, the centre-backs, Russell Martin, Bennett when he's been in there. They're all supposedly decent players. They've all played in the top flight. Why are they incapable of defending, basic defending? So as much as if we want to portion blame, yeah, you have to look at the coaching and the philosophy and what the manager's instructions are when he sends them on the park. But again, today, Tim Closer, it just doesn't sense danger. Rhodes has ran off the back of him twice and scored 2 goals. It's embarrassing. And we saw it again at Burton. That lad he looks a shell of the player we saw in the Premier League. But ultimately, I wrote about this last week, I think probably post-Burton, he was purchased for a team who were hoping to push on in the Premier League. By no stretch is he fit for purpose in the Championship, and that's what I'm saying. To go back to what I said, it needs to be a major transitional phase now, and we'll be waving goodbye to some players, and that'll be on the club's terms. And sadly, I think the reality is there'll be players going who you would like to keep at Norwich, but they will have offers elsewhere and they will move on. But it needs to happen. There needs to be bloodletting, because you can't keep banging your head against that wall, because ultimately, we don't want a scenario, and we saw it at the derby, how the Ipswich's longevity was mocked in this division. I'm sorry, if things don't happen, fundamental changes happen now to that playing squad, then you're going to be in it for a few years, I fear.
I think we should end it there, because my arm hurts, and and my eyes after a lot of that this afternoon. Thanks for your questions. I've been checking through them. Yes, I think we do want to go for youth. I think that's the idea from now on. Now there's nothing else to play for. A few questions about the board as well, and I'm sure Steve Stone being interim chief exec, that's going to be a subject that's going to come up in weeks and days and months, and I'm sure we'll get the opportunity to speak to him at some point, and there'll be plenty of questions for where Norwich go from here. Anyway, given it's not going to be the Premier League, and that means huge ramifications, doesn't it, as we've been saying. So thanks for all your questions. We're going to go home, if you don't mind. Paddy, thank you very much. I hope you liked the study centre. Lots of good learning goes on in here, I'm sure. We're going to go home. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you before we head to Bristol, because, I'm not sure if you guys will be heading to Bristol. If you are, good decision. And we'll see you there or here. And I'm now going to switch off. Goodbye. Cheers, Pad.